Hey folks, I am on the Zoom line with Kathyrn Calhoun, who is with Kathyrn Calhoun Coaching, kathyrncalhouncoaching.com. She actually specializes in helping entrepreneurs clarify their roadmap to success by helping them focus on the best steps forward to growth and prosperity. And she has, like I said, kathyrncalhouncoaching.com.
Uh-huh.
We'll make sure
Yep.
there's a link in the show notes because I've already screwed up your URL. It's
okay.
But anyways, Kathyrn, thanks for being on the program.
It's my pleasure, Steve. Thanks so much for having me. I was honored to get your request. You know, we don't always, like you were saying before the interview, we don't always think of nonprofits and entrepreneurship as necessarily intersecting, but there's a lot of overlap, and it's a pleasure to be speaking with your people today.
Yeah, this is great. I found Kathyrn through a Google search for a specific product. I was looking for information on webinar software, Zoom being one of them, which we're using now. And I was looking towards another one. And anyways, I ended just through the Google search, I found her website, and it was a great blog, lots of information about entrepreneur startups and things like that. And you mentioned like you focus on entrepreneurship and online marketing or online exposure, growing that. And I think people right now might be like, what does this have to do with nonprofits, right? And I'll kind of answer that, and then I think maybe you can answer that too.
Sure.
How I see it, basically, a lot of people who are in nonprofits, they're in the startup phase, or maybe they've been around for 10 years and they just need to re-energize. And a lot of that takes one person's energy and focus and leadership to do that. And typically that's an entrepreneur energy, an entrepreneur kind of spirit that person has to go out, because it's multitasking. You got to market, you got to develop programs, you got to fundraise and all these things. And when an entrepreneur starts a business, they have to market, they have to generate funds, they have to do products, they have to find offices, they have to get an online presence, right? And so I think nonprofits have a lot to learn from entrepreneurs. And in many cases, many people who start nonprofits are entrepreneurs and don't even realize it. Do you want to add to that, or did I just overtalk that?
No. I mean, I completely agree with you. Sorry, hang on a second. I agree with you. Everybody can benefit from visibility for whatever it is that they're doing. And one of the things that you said to me before, which is so brilliant, is that it's just a matter of, you know, nonprofits and entrepreneurs. Sure, there are some differences, but one of the differences is who's paying us, and how do we bring the funding in, and what are we using those funds for? But the fundamental principles of how do we spread the message for what it is that we're up to, how do we generate awareness and excitement and get people on board, all of those principles are the same. And the internet has given us this really incredible platform to be able to spread the word about what it is that we're doing in a really big and leveraged way. You know, if you think about, you know, if you've ever attended a networking event or something where you were trying to make new connections and meet people and help to, you know, sort of form these strategic alliances, or maybe find donors or sponsors or supporters, that the one-on-one in-person stuff is very, very powerful. But we can kind of turbocharge that when we add this online piece to whatever it is you're doing for your marketing efforts.
Right. That's perfect. I like the way you kind of frame that. And so I'm going to go back a little bit here too. Just to kind of reemphasize this point. I think the people who are ahead of the curve when it comes to whether it's online marketing or business development are entrepreneurs, because they have to be current, and nonprofits can take the risk to move forward with stuff, whether it's a email list or, God, back in the day, what were those? Listservs, like those were kind of new, universities using, but nonprofits try these tools. They're one of the first to try it. Older businesses or government usually tend to be way behind on stuff like that and implementing it. So learning from entrepreneurs and learning from nonprofits, it kind of goes hand in hand. But specifically, our topic today is going to be it's kind of twofold, but I really want to talk about that list building. Like, how do you generate your following? Where's that following coming from? How do you get them to take interest in what you're doing? Not only subscribe to an email list, but interact with that email list, and how that kind of goes in with because the kind of the current thing, and it's been current for a while, but is social media marketing, right? People want
Yeah.
to build their following. I want to get more likes. I want to get more
Right.
page follows, and that's great. But social media has its own use, its own little market that it works in,
Mm-hmm.
and whereas the list,
So
it has
true.
its own focus. And so maybe we can
Yeah.
start there, kind of go from,
Sure.
hey, I'm building my fan base on Facebook or YouTube, but what's the difference between that? Why would I want to build an email list?
Right. That is a really, it's a great question, and it's a really important question for people to understand the answer to, for a number of different reasons. First of all, yeah, social media, Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, Pinterest, all the stuff. There's so many different platforms, and they can be a really powerful way for you to get the word out about what you're up to, which is great. But there are a few pitfalls, especially if you, well, there are a number of pitfalls. I'll talk about a few of those. First of all, if you're working on your own, like if you're kind of the only person, you're a solopreneur, you're running your nonprofit by yourself or mostly by yourself, and you just feel like, well, I've been told I should be on Facebook, I've been told I should be on LinkedIn, I've been told I should be on Twitter and Pinterest and YouTube, and gosh, what are all the other ones? Instagram. Like there's so many, and there's only so many hours in a day. And so feeling like we need to be everywhere on social media can be really overwhelming. It can really add to our to-do list. And then the question becomes, one of the things you mentioned was, we're trying to get more likes, we're trying to get more comments and shares and that kind of thing. And I want to know, if you have a page on Facebook and you've been working really hard to get likes on it, or you're working to get a lot of, engagement is often a thing that people want. Like, how do I get more people to, like you said, share my thing, comment on my posts, like my posts? Like, is that helping? Is that helping you get further, like down your mission path than before you were doing it?
Mm-hmm.
One of my clients, she was spending a ton of time on Facebook because she was like, well, it's the 21st century. And I've heard that she's a travel agent. And she's like, I heard that I just need to be everywhere on Facebook. Like, that's just what people do now. Right. And it was like, well, how many extra clients is that generating you now that you're on Facebook all the time? And
Right.
she didn't see the difference.
Right. It's a good awareness generator, but I'm not sure it brings people in all the time. There's a couple
Exactly.
of issues I have with Facebook, and I'm on Facebook, of course, right? And you're there, and it's fun, and it's good to interact in, and specifically, like if you start a group and you're really focused in the group,
Mm-hmm.
but a list is a little different. And here's a couple of
Yeah.
things I have with Facebook that I struggle with, is that Facebook, they kind of own the content, they own the platform,
Absolutely.
right? And so
Absolutely.
if they change their algorithm, which they just did,
Uh-huh.
that can affect you greatly, right? They changed
Mm-hmm.
the algorithm recently. I just briefly read it. It was in a few
Yeah.
places. They changed it so it focused primarily on featuring people in your feed that were friends and family and close relations like that. So if
That's
you
right.
were a business or a group or things like that, your feed wouldn't show up as much, right? Unless someone specifically went and chose you to be in their feed. So a
Mm-hmm.
lot of groups and pages fell off the feed or lost as much traction in the feed.
Yeah, pages especially. Groups again fared better in the algorithm update than pages did.
Right.
But yeah, it's like, but yeah, the purpose of social media marketing is social interaction, and we can and do use these tools to help. You can use it to help grow your nonprofit. You can use it to help grow your business, but Facebook's primary purpose in life is not to serve all of the people who spend time on Facebook all of your advertising, right? It's at its core a social platform, and so and like you said, that's one of the weaknesses of marketing our stuff on someone else's machine,
Right.
machine. And the other thing is that what happens if we fast forward 10 years from now and there's no such thing as Facebook anymore? Now, is that going to happen? Like, I don't have a crystal ball. I don't think it will, but young people, I know I look younger than I actually am. I'm just about to turn 40, but my little sister is 22 and she doesn't use Facebook anymore. Facebook used to be the trendy, cool thing that young people use, and now they don't use it. That's not, their parents are all on Facebook, so they don't use Facebook anymore. And if you remember back to MySpace, which was kind of the big social media platform that was a precursor to Facebook, tons of people had this sort of platform on MySpace, and then MySpace just went the way of the dodo. Yeah. So if you're relying on Facebook to get the word out there, if you're relying on Facebook to get the word out there and Facebook disappears, then what?
Right. Or your audience isn't there. Like you said, my friend has a 16-year-old, and I was like, oh, look at this thing. Go on your Facebook page or Facebook and look at this. And she's like, I'm not on Facebook. Oh, okay. Well, forget that plan. I'll go open mine and watch the video. So yeah, I think that's an issue. It's like Facebook is really good for, if I told my story on Facebook and got a new like from that, that's great. Now someone's more aware of my mission, but I really need to bring them into my platform or my mailing list or somewhere where now I can really feed them the information that's specific to mine, and it doesn't get lost in a feed somewhere.
Yeah, exactly.
That day they don't see it. Okay, well, cool. So let's talk about that. So, I guess I don't know if you want to talk about getting them from Facebook or from their social media onto your page and group and list and all that, and then kind of go from there, because we are now creating kind of a funnel. We've talked about funnels on my podcast before. We've talked about sales funnels and marketing funnels. Now we're talking about list generating funnels, I guess. But if that's the case, is there a connection I can make between my social media following and getting them over to the website to get them onto something?
Yeah, that's also a really awesome question. And that's kind of the missing piece, because it's like we're talking about, okay, so Facebook is a great way to get ourselves out there in front of our people, but it's not going to it's not like the whole picture of marketing our thing. And so that's why having the email list can be so powerful, because on Facebook, like you said, it's someone else's platform. You're totally at the mercy of the algorithm changes. You're totally at the mercy of, whatever. It's their rules. It's their platform. If they all of a sudden say no more advertising of any kind, like we're taking Facebook ads away, you're not allowed to have a business page, like they can do that. But if you use the visibility that you're getting on social media to drive those people onto an email list, then that's where social media marketing actually does something for you, because then you start to actually collect the contact information, the name and the email address of the people who've seen what it is that you're up to on social media. They're interested, and they express their interest by giving you their name and their email address in exchange for getting on your list and getting to stay in touch with your business. And then once they're on your email list, then you control the conversation, right? It's not, you're not at the mercy of Facebook anymore, or whatever the social media platform is that you're using. You're not subject to the whims of whatever changes happen. You get to control the conversation. You've got that person's contact information. You can follow up with them whenever you've got something really cool going on, whenever you're doing like a fundraising drive or whatever it is. You just want to push updates out to like all of the awesome things that your organization is doing for people. When you've got those people on your list, it's a captive audience, and you own your list. So it doesn't matter if Facebook disappears. It doesn't matter if some other social media platform becomes the next big thing. You have got this asset that you can use to actually do more of what it is that you want to be doing in your business, because you've got the attention of your people.
Right. And that's a good point, because having that list and you kind of own it, it's like having a physical, right? Like you own this. So I'm going to play devil's advocate here really quick. Like, why would I want to start an email list? Because it just goes to spam, or people get tired of it. I'm going to be bugging them with all my emails. And all these people never read it. Like, what's the point of getting this list going?
So that's a good one. If you look at, I wish I was armed with the statistics before we jumped on this interview, but they've got some, if you just do a quick Google search after you're done listening to this episode of the podcast of conversion rates from social media versus email marketing. You can just Google that, and you'll see that lots of data analyst, internet marketing, like super nerds, have crunched the numbers and shown that you get way better traction with your audience by communicating with them via email than you do on Twitter or Facebook or any of those things. So it's interesting, because there is this sort of like rumor going around that email marketing is dead and that social media marketing is the way to go. But again, I would ask you, if that's the way that you feel, I would ask you, are your social media marketing efforts actually paying off? purely on social media, like you're just doing social media and everything is just like exceeding your expectations. Like, is that happening? And if it's not, what the best social media marketing teachers, mentors, experts, they will tell you that their goal is to generate awareness for you on that platform, whether it's LinkedIn or Facebook or whatever, and then you get the lead, you get the visibility in front of that lead, and then you get them off of that platform and you get them onto your email list. Every social media, like every LinkedIn expert, every Facebook marketing expert, they will all tell you that. The goal is not get the lead on Facebook, convert them into a donor or a contributor or whatever, what have you, a client, whatever it is, on Facebook. It'll be get the lead on Facebook, get them onto your email list so that you can continue the conversation from there.
Right, right. So while you were talking, I did a quick search, and so here you go. Here's the first one I just found. It's so basically what they're doing is they're comparing. It's kind of apples. Well, it's almost apples to apples. It's 2,000 email subscribers compared to 2,000 Facebook fans compared to 2,000 followers on Twitter.
Right.
So you send out a message to 2,000 emails, 2,000 Facebook, and 2,000 Twitters, and here's the reach. Of the 2,000 email subscribers, 435 will open the email. Of the 2,000 Facebook fans, 120 fans will actually see your message. Of the 2,000 Twitter followers, 40 will see the message. So there's your difference. It's 4 times almost of the people who open your email compared to the amount of people who will actually see the message on Facebook. And Twitter, forget it.
Yeah, exactly. And so, it's not that's the thing about email marketing is, there are going to be people there are going to be lots of people actually who ignore your messages. I have a membership program that's all about email marketing. And, we talk about what are the tips and tricks we use in the subject lines and stuff to help you get your messages open. But if you have an open rate, meaning the percentage of people who are opening your emails, if you have an open rate of like 30%, you're doing awesome. So that's just kind of a lot of online marketing is purely just a numbers game. That if you've got 1,000 people on your email list, that roughly a quarter of those people are going to open any given email you have.
Right. And then the click through on that is
right.
So, I remember this is a while ago. I was talking to a email. He was a fundraiser. And he had a fundraising machine, because when you're fundraising, you do a campaign and you say you're trying to raise $50,000, something like that. You're doing it through regular mail, you're doing it through email, you're doing it through phone calls, you're doing it through social media, all these types of things. And he had said, you got to work your list. And if you don't lose, if you don't lose subscribers, you're not working your list hard enough. You're going to lose subscribers because people will sign up just on a whim, and maybe they're not that interested. And after a while, like, not my thing. And you don't want them to have your email. That's right. A good thing. In fact, sometimes you'll go through your list and you'll actually purge people off of there.
Yeah.
Because in the stats, you're going to see this person has not opened an email for 4 years. I'm going to give, I'm on some of those lists where they'll send me something like, opt out.
Do you want to still be here?
Yeah, you don't need to be here. I'm not going to force you to be here. Right. And that's kind of, I think email marketing in a sense has evolved in this, where it's just, there's more people doing it, and we're not all the original people who are kind of the saley kind of click now and buy this. And like, there's a sincere effort here. So let's talk about that. What am I putting in these emails, and like I got the list. What now? What's the point? It's great. We have opens. But,
well, it depends. I mean, it depends on what the goals are for what you're doing. If you are trying to, maybe you're trying to spread the word that you're hosting some big gala or a campaign or something like that. That's what you can put in the content of your emails. But the biggest thing, like the biggest sort of key to getting your emails read is really having a good subject line. So you don't want, it doesn't have to be like slick and marketing-y. It's just like something compelling about what's going on and why they should open the email. And keep in mind, a lot of it too, and this isn't going to sound really like a special marketing magic trick, but it really, the biggest key harkens back to what you were just saying, which is you want your emails to be going to the right people. If you have a list of, like 10,000 people on it, but lots of those people haven't opened your emails in 4 years, then that's what we call a vanity metric, right? It's like, woo, you can say, wow, I've got 10,000 people on my list, but if it's underperforming, if you're only having like a couple hundred people out of those 10,000 people engaging with your stuff, then it's like, that's not really helpful for you. So I always would prefer to see people have a smaller list that's engaged. And when you have that list from the beginning, that makes it so much easier to do the thing about all of the stuff where people are like, well, how do I get my emails opened? And how do I increase my click rates and all of those kinds of things? It really starts with getting the right people onto your email list in the first place.
And making sure, okay, so here's something that I think a lot of people may do with their list is when they're starting their list, they have one list and they put everybody on it, which is fine. But eventually, like with nonprofits or with any entrepreneur, you're going to have different people. People have come to your site or to your business or to your nonprofit for different reasons. Some may be following a story about a person that you're helping and really want to learn more about the programs. Some may be people you're serving, the people in the programs, and others may be donors who have donated. So, can you talk a little bit about that? Like, first of all, so we started our list. Now, once we start that list, maybe we can go from there. We'll start with tips on starting. We'll start with tips on starting the list. And then we'll figure out, like, what do we do with that list to make it more focused? Because you're right. If we have 1,000 people on there, but they're there for different reasons, do we do the segment of the list that allows it to be more focused on
more
what
targeted? Yeah. Well, okay. So first of all, to start a list, I love that I'm, kind of getting opportunity to talk about that. Cause one of the things, I help people who want to be able to get visibility for their businesses, their organizations online, but most of my people actually really struggle with the techie stuff. So, people will look at me and they're like, oh, she's young. Like, she understands computers. Of course, this is all easy for her. And actually most of my clients are people who they really, really struggle with this stuff. So, and they've heard, okay, I need an email list. They've heard, okay, I need to do social media. I need to do all the things, but it's like, but how? And I love helping people with kind of like here's like the click here of what you actually do so that you know how to set it up. And one of the things that happens if we take the example of like Facebook, marketing your stuff on Facebook, but it doesn't have to be Facebook. It could also be, let's say you have a speaking engagement and you've got an audience of 50 or 100 or 200 people where you're getting to talk about your organization at the speaking engagement. All of those are opportunities for you to take those people who are listening to your message and then bring them onto your email list. And one of the most common ways we think of doing that is by driving people to your website. But actually, and this is something we're going to talk about a little bit later. I think I have a gift for your listeners that kind of lays this out a little bit better, a little bit in a little more detail. But actually, driving traffic to your website tends to not be the most efficient way to get people onto your email list. Because if you think of a website, it's like there's like the menu across the top. There's maybe some new blog posts for them to check out. There's some stuff on the sidebar. There's all kinds of things going on that they can read and look at and click on, videos to watch, whatever it is. And what ends up happening from like and I'm not a psychologist, but from like this online marketing perspective, it's like our brains get overwhelmed with so many different choices of what they could do that often they don't do anything. And so what you really want to do and if you don't have a website, this is awesome. This is perfect for you because you don't actually need to have a ton of techie stuff to be able to start building an email list. All you need is a tool that is that functions as like a repository to contain all of the email addresses. And then you just need a way to get people to give you their name and their email address. And my favorite way to do that is what we call an opt-in page. And I'm sure your listeners have heard of these before. It's very straightforward. It's just a page where instead of a website where there's a million different things they could be looking at or clicking on, it's just a one page where there's nothing to do on that page, but put in the name and the email address to get on your list or leave. And sometimes people get a little like worried about, well, don't I want to give them more options? Don't I want to keep them around longer? Like, what if they leave? Like, what if they take the like choice number 2, what's behind door number 2, and they actually leave? They don't give me their information. But if that's how you're feeling, just remember what you were just saying earlier, Steve, that it's like You want the people who you want the people who are easy yeses. You want the people who resonate really strongly with you and your message. So if somebody gets to your opt-in page and they're like, I don't know, maybe I'll do this later, I don't really care. Like, you don't need that person on your list, because those people are going to be so hard for you to get them to open those emails and click on the things you want them to click on and all of that stuff. It's like, it's great. You want the people who are most excited about what you're offering.
It's what a car salesman would call a tire kicker.
Right. Exactly. I mean, and again, like, you can have a great big list of tire kickers, but what you really want is a list of people that are like, I need a car right now.
Right. Yeah. And people you're going to learn from too, because they're going to be helping you determine like what they're interested in, because then once you have them on your list, that engagement happens. So then you're like, okay, how can I best serve this list?
Yeah.
If you have a list of tire kickers, you're going to be all over the map.
Yeah.
Like, trying to serve their needs.
Yeah.
Right.
It's
Yeah.
true.
I like that. Cool. Now, so the techie stuff, right? So getting over the techie stuff, and I guess, there's tools for that. And we've talked on my program about MailChimp and Awebbers and things like that. And there's also marketing. There's even more focused marketing stuff like ConvertKit and ClickFunnels and things like that people use.
Yeah.
Lead Pages, I guess, is one too.
That's right.
That do exactly what you're talking about. So those are the tools that create that page, get someone to sign up for the email list, and has the email list included. So now it's kind of the all-in-one solution. So that may be something that's included in your gift. Maybe give more information on that. We'll talk about that at the end. We'll make sure people know how to get that information.
Awesome.
So cool. So now, God, there's a story I want to tell. Just to I'm so stuck on Facebook because I do web development as my core source of income.
Okay.
And I get clients who are like, well, I have a Facebook page. I don't need a website. And I just want to kick them. Speaking of kicking tires. So here's an example. All right. And this nonprofit actually has a website. And my nonprofit that I run, I teach people with disabilities and at-risk youth how to run a dog team. Hence, prior to this conversation, when I said I couldn't talk right now, there's a moose in my dog yard. Okay, so now you know the scenario. So, and they had canceled a race because it was really cold. It was like 15, 20 below. And for kids, that's too cold. So we didn't have a race. And they rescheduled the race 3 days in advance and put it on Facebook. I never got that message because according to the stats I just saw, 20 of the 2,000 people saw that, right? So I didn't see that message. Come the race day, I'm sitting here in my cabin and the kids are coming here to practice for a race. Meanwhile, they're having a race. And I was not happy. And my response was, I could have responded better. And not only that, okay, now I'm going on my own pet peeve. They don't have a mailing list. They have a listserv. And then like, I don't sign up for listservs. You talk about overwhelming emails. So anyways, okay, my pet peeves aside. But so anyways, that's a real life example though that's a nonprofit that's been around for decades. Yeah. And they're using a listserv and Facebook to get their message out. And I missed it completely. And I had two kids that wanted to be in that race and that were ready to be in that race. So folks, learn from that, serve your community better. So
the other thing too about that is that, a lot of times people will come to me and they'll be really, they will be like depressed about how poorly this thing that they're trying to launch, this business or this organization that they're trying to get off the ground, they're depressed. They feel like they're failing because they've been trying really hard to get the word out there. They've been trying really hard to fundraise or sell their stuff or whatever it is. And they're exhausted and they're not seeing any results for their efforts. And they are working very hard, but it's like, just like you said, there's no way that they put that notice on Facebook assuming that almost nobody was going to see it, right? They're like, well, this is how, like, surely it's Facebook. So surely everyone's going to see it. Right. Everyone's on Facebook. And that's a myth. So if you are like doing the bulk of the efforts you're making to be visible, if the bulk of that is on social media and you're not using those efforts to then take that visibility and funnel those people onto an email list, then don't beat yourself up. Don't feel bad that you're failing. You're not failing. It's just a matter of using social media as a tool to get the people so that you can then control the conversation.
Right. And get the information to them. So we're talking about starting a list, and what you were talking about the tech stuff. So once we have the tech stuff, now let's keep starting this list though, right? So let's use the scenario I just did. They decide to start a list. They go and get the tool to do it. What do they do next to start this list? Obviously you may have a list. You can import maybe 50 people into there. You got to watch that sometimes.
Yeah.
Because you could do that illegally. You just can't put someone on a list, but
right.
Let's build this list out.
Yeah. So, I love that. The first thing you can do to get started, it's funny because as much as like I will gripe about social media and how it doesn't work as well as people think it does, if you're doing social media marketing, it can be a really good way for you to grow your email list. It's just that it's the difference between, just posting on Facebook to say, hey, check out this thing we've got coming up, and posting on Facebook to say, hey, check out this thing we've got coming up, to be sure you get the invitation and all of the details, click here to give us your email address. It's just like it's a nuance to what you're already doing. So, Facebook and LinkedIn and Twitter and all of those are not a bad way to do that. Not a bad way to generate visibility for your business. Just make sure that you're doing it in the context of list building. So you're not expecting the conversation to continue on Facebook. Your intent is to bring it off of Facebook onto your list. So that's one thing you can do. Another thing is just to, you want to get out there. And I don't know, you can speak to this, maybe like you can definitely speak to this better than I can. I know in my case, entrepreneurs who primarily want to have online businesses, they sometimes kind of get stuck behind their computers and they hide, and they'll work really hard on, putting together a series of videos or putting a workbook together or drafting some emails or getting some stuff designed or writing a book, and none of those things are bad things, but what's missing is the actual getting out there with the stuff that you're creating. And it's really important that you spend at least as much time, if not more, getting out there in front of your people than you do hiding behind your computer creating this stuff. Especially if you're just getting started. Of course, there's going to be some things that you need to get created, but if you're getting a website developed, if you're building an online course, or, any of those kinds of things, don't just do that, but never talk to anybody. Don't spend 3 years getting that stuff together and never tell anybody about what you're doing in the real world.
Right. And you can apply this to nonprofits pretty almost one-to-one here. You can say, got a grant for the program, folks, put an email out, got the grant for the program. We're getting let's say computers for the program we're starting. And then when those computers arrive, that's another email. Hey folks, we got the computers for the program we're setting up here. And look and here's John setting up the networking, right? And picture him underneath a desk with wires all over him or something like that, right? And so you just keep informing them this, because you're keeping them involved in the story.
Yeah.
It gives you content for the email list, for your email, but you're also telling them about the program. When that program launches, you're going to have a lot more people aware of it because you've kept them along in the story. When they finally walk into that room, they're going to be part of that story. They know where you got the money. They saw John. They, oh my God, he really did network this whole room. They saw the screen you were testing and the shadow puppets you did on the screen or whatever. Yeah. And then when they get there, it's all more real. And when you send that last email inviting them to the program or to the opening, you're going to get more people coming than just doing it once. They haven't heard from you for months. You're like, opening new, look, it's here. There's no attachment to that. They're not involved in the story. They're not part of it. So
staying in touch with people, like it humanizes you, and it humanizes your brand as an organization. And that's really the key these days. People talk about internet marketers often talk about authenticity, and they talk about authenticity so much nowadays that even just talking about how important it is to be authentic just sounds cheesy. Like it does, that in and of itself doesn't even sound authentic anymore. But I will say, it's ironic, right? That this whole idea of social media, this whole idea of like these different ways that we can connect to people, have the amount of time that we're spending behind our computers or with our smartphone in our faces has given us a sense of isolation that's more than I think we've ever had before. And so people want to see who you are as a person. They want to see the heart and the soul that's behind the organization. And so if all it ever is, you know, these really sort of corporate sounding, super buttoned up emails that are just all about sort of like the business of the day, and there's none of that real, hey, we're human beings here who really want to help you, it's that's when your marketing tends to fall flat. So I'm glad you brought that up, because it's so important.
Yeah, I'm glad you just brought that up too, because the between entrepreneurs and nonprofits, there's a big connection, because what you just said, it relates to EDs. The executive director of the nonprofit becomes the face of the organization. So don't hide behind the logo or the building or the corporation that you're part of.
Right.
So let's go back to email marketing. Because this is where when I first started doing like emails, and my emails got so simple now. It's all text with links. It is. I don't spend time doing the banner with the thumbnails and things like that. I think people see those and they're like, oh geez, every email I got to construct this template, right? So let's talk a little bit about that, because I see them all the time, and I see them coming from actually, and they're good. They're good information. It is a corporation, and I expect it to look corporate. Is it necessary to have that beautiful looking email template?
Not only is it not necessary, but it actually can harm your ability to increase awareness for your stuff. So first of all, like you said, sometimes just feeling like sending an email to your email list is complicated, because there's got to be a header, and we've got to come up with the little stuff that's going to go in the sidebar of the newsletter, and all of that. Like, in and of itself, it complicates the process. And sometimes, especially if you do struggle with the techie stuff, sometimes just that extra layer of complication is enough to make you not do it, because you're just like, I don't know, like it's too hard. I know I should be sending emails, but I don't really know what I'm doing, and it's too hard. And so then you don't do it, which is terrible. Because if you're going to go to the trouble of building an email list, which I hope that we've convinced you should do, the worst thing you can then do is to go to the trouble of building that list and then not email anybody for 2 years until then you've got some big launch or something big promotion or some big drive or something coming up, and then that's the first time they hear from you. So we want to be emailing on a consistent basis. That's really important. And the good news is that not only is it way easier to just send an email that looks like an email you might get from a friend, it's just like text, like you said, with a couple of links in it. So no header, no, like, if you have a picture that you want to share of the guy that hooked up the cables under the desk, that's awesome, because that's something that like a friend of yours might do. Like, hey, check out this thing I just did this weekend. But not only is that easier for you to just do like a simple email that's mostly text, but they've also shown that those emails tend to get more engagement on them. Like people tend to click on the links in those emails more than they do on the ones that look all like a nice polished newsletter. Again, I think because it's this human component. When we get an email that looks like a fancy newsletter, it feels like a piece of advertising, and we're tired of being advertised to. So when we get an email that just looks like a regular email, that people, I think, are sort of unconsciously associating that with the type of email you might get from your mom or from your friend or from your cousin.
Yeah.
So those emails tend to get better engagement. So not only is it easier for you to create, it also does more of what you want it to do.
Right. It gives a feeling like, hey, a person sat down and wrote this. To a department within the store or the corporation.
Totally. Yes, absolutely.
So we're talking about kind of mistakes people make here now. So that could be one of them. Do you have other mistakes that people can make, whether it's through growing their list or just growing their nonprofit in general?
The biggest mistake really is not emailing the people once they've gotten on your list. Once they've said yes to being on your list, you've got like a really sort of like a hot prospect there. Somebody has said, hey, I'm interested in hearing what it is that you have to say. And this is really important too, that it speaks to what you were saying earlier about, well, I don't want to bother people. Maybe they're hearing from me too much. I know everybody gets a lot of email. I don't want to bother people. But the thing with the opt-in page where you've said, hey, like, would you like to be on my list? And they said, actually, yes, I would. that's somebody who has like raised their hand and said, Steve, I want to hear more from you. I want to know what you're up to. And so you're actually doing them a disservice if you don't stay in touch with them. And when you stay in touch with people on a regular basis, what you're doing is you're conditioning them to hear from you. You're conditioning them to open your emails. You're conditioning them to click on your stuff. You're conditioning them to engage with your brand. And so if you're emailing people on a consistent basis, then you just become like a regular part of the fabric of their life. But if you're just in and out whenever you want to promote something, then then you lose that human component. And so that's a really big mistake that people make. And the only one that I really see that is a big problem is just simply not taking advantage of the opportunities that you have to list build at all. So, we talked about this already, so I don't need to belabor the point, but if you're doing social media marketing, make sure that you're including a link to your opt-in page so that people can get on your list. And again, the gift that I have for you that we'll talk about later kind of walks you through that. But cool. If you have an opportunity to do a speaking gig, you have a speaking engagement, whether it's live or whether it's online, make sure that you have a way to give people that link so that they can get on your email list. If you've written a book, a lot of people will write books or they'll have a blog in order to just publish content. And, especially if it's a printed book, that's a lot of work to get one of those done. I used to write marketing copy. I did a ton of ghostwriting. I've like published a zillion books, and it's a lot of work. It's a lot of work to get that all done. And what often ends up happening is people are like, okay, I've got this book, so now I'm credible because I've got this book. But what does that book do for you? If it's not going to help you grow the list, if it's not going to help you continue the conversation with your people, then what's the point of it? You want people to read the book, get to parts of the book and go, hey, like, I would love to learn more about that. Oh, look, there's a thing I can type in here to get on this person's email list. Awesome. Like, that's what you want your book to do. And that's what you want all of your marketing efforts to do. You can put those links on your business cards. You can put them on your, you want to make sure you have a link from your website, or you have some way from your website for people to get onto your email list. Networking events, if you're doing any kind of one-on-one networking, social media for sure, like any of those things, that's, if you're struggling to grow a list, then you want to ask yourself, like, where can I be letting people know about my opt-in page more?
Right. Yeah. So I like that you gave a lot of good ideas, like events and speaking engagements, social media, on your business cards, in your ebook, in your downloads, things, all that kind of stuff.
Even if you say to people, like, instead of saying, oh, go check out my website, like websites are, like, as you know, websites are important. It's not that websites are not important, but if somebody says, do you have a website or something you could check out? You could say, you know what, I do. But if you really want to learn a lot about what I do, the best thing you can do is get on my email list. And here's a really quick way for you to do that.
Right. Or you have a lead magnet, right? Best thing you can do, if you want more about that, we have a download that's the top 10 things we do in the community. Or here's 5 ways we spend your money. It's awesome. Just go to this page. You'll see it right there. You have to, and you have just let me know. Just let me know where you want me to send it. You'll have to give me your email address so that I know where to send the checklist. Exactly. And and then they're on your list. Yeah, I think that's great. So before we wrap up here, we've generated a list. Let's talk about generating different lists or segmenting that list, so that it's not like one ring controls them all, right? You have multiple lists going on there. So you have different landing pages, different opt-ins that you're bringing people to.
Yeah, you can do that. You can definitely do that. In fact, Tim Page, he's one of the big guns over at Lead Pages, which is a tool that you mentioned. They're all about opt-in page software, and he has 3 separate business cards. And I let me see if I can get this right. But the way that he does it is if he's at an event, he has 3 separate business cards. And all of the only thing the business card, he doesn't even put his phone number on there. It's just the link to his opt-in page. And depending on the type of person he's talking to, he pulls out the most relevant business card. So if he's talking to, a potential customer for Lead Pages, he gives them the card with the link to that's maybe like 5 tips to create an awesome opt-in page or whatever. If he is talking to somebody that might be a good affiliate for lead pages, so somebody that could help spread the word about their company and what they're up to help them generate more sales, he gives them a different card where they're opting in for like, I don't know, like tips to be a great affiliate. And I can't remember what the third one is off the top of my head, but he actually he takes this whole idea to the extreme. And yeah, you can definitely segment people. There's lots of different ways you can segment lists, but and segmenting is the ideal. You want the more targeted your messages are. So if you're sending an email to your donors, that might be different content, than it's likely going to be different content than the emails that you're sending to the people who are benefiting from your nonprofit work. So in that sense, segmenting is good. But I will say, my people tend to really, really get overwhelmed by the techie stuff. And segmenting is kind of like the next level of complexity. So it's important to choose an email marketing tool that will allow you to do those kinds of things easily when you're ready. But if all you can do is just get your email list, like just the foundational, like nothing fancy email list together, that's a great start. And then as long as you've chosen a tool that will allow you to do the segmenting when you're ready, then that's great. That's awesome.
Yeah. So you can build into that. So it's not necessary to start, and don't think like from scratch with 3 lists. That would be overwhelming.
Yeah. Don't go, oh my God, I need 3 lists. And then you're just not going to start because it's too much.
Yeah. And then you never follow up, and then you have a list that just sits there.
That's right.
Guilty here. I've done that. So
a lot of people have. That's why I know that it's a pitfall.
It can be a problem. For those who think they're at that point, for nonprofits, I would say 3 things you'd want to focus on are your volunteers. Your volunteers should be a separate email list than someone you're trying to get donors from, and participants in your program is definitely a own list. And then the rest could fall into a general list, I guess. But those are kind of specified lists. So if you had 3 business cards and someone said, how do I volunteer? You pull out your volunteer business card and say, go here, and here's the benefits of volunteering.
Yeah.
And here's 5 ways you can volunteer. Go there, and I'll say, we'll send you all the info.
I'm glad you brought that up, because if you're struggling to get volunteers, you have people who I'm going out on a limb and guessing this is a problem maybe that some of your listeners have, is people expressing an interest in volunteering, but then actually getting the commitment from them can be a struggle. And that's just one of the many examples of the power of having a list, is that they don't forget about you because you've got their contact information. So if you're having trouble getting that commitment, or somebody volunteered once and you want to follow up with them to try to get them to volunteer more frequently or on a regular basis or whatever, if you don't have a way to follow up with them in an automated fashion, then you're creating a lot of work for yourself. And then there's going to be a lot of volunteers falling through the cracks just because they got busy. But when you can keep in touch with them on a regular basis with email marketing, then you kind of stay top of mind for them.
Yeah. Yeah. Yep. Yeah, exactly. And it like we also said earlier, it is a focused topic. They're not getting 10 emails about the upcoming event. They're getting relevant information about what's needed from them and what they want to learn from.
Exactly. What they told you they wanted to learn about.
Awesome. Well, this is, folks, you really got to check out her website. One of the things that I liked about your website, and I think I told you this when we first contacted each other, is you have a blog on there, and your blog is wonderful, because I see a lot of sites where you go to their blog and you read it, and I was guilty of this when I first started out. I'm like, I just need to get lots of content, because 5-10 years ago, that was like, just publish a lot, even if it's 300 words. You have really good information. Your blog posts are long, they're informative, they're authoritative, and you're not publishing one every or 3 a week. You publish, it's there, and it's so that's worth it. But there will be a link to it. It's KathyrnCalhounCoaching.com. Kathyrn, you have a gift for us. Tell us about that.
Yeah, I'd love to. It's just a little PDF resource guide that you can download. It's called The Only 3 Digital Tools You Need to Get Up, Running, and Profitable Online. And I hope, it is geared for entrepreneurs, but, I hope that we've convinced you today that, if you don't already see yourself as an entrepreneur, you are one. If you are responsible for getting visibility for your organization, then you can definitely benefit from everything that I have to share. And, the website, the blog will certainly be helpful. I have a free Facebook group you can join, but really the best thing is, surprise, surprise, the best thing is to get on my email list, and you can do that with this free gift. Inside, it's just going to cover, I really love to keep the techie overwhelm to the dullest roar possible. And so the guide is just kind of really the bare bones 3 things that you need to be able to get your online stuff together and start to do the things that we've been talking about, getting visibility, growing your list, all of that good stuff. And there are some tool recommendations, some specific kind of techie tool recommendations in that guide too. So if you've ever been like you said, Aweber, MailChimp, Infusionsoft, ClickFunnels, Convert, which one is it? I have some recommendations for that as well. And if nothing else, it is a living, breathing example of everything that you and I have been talking about today. So if you want to see what it looks like and feels like to go to an opt-in page, give somebody the name and the email address, get the free gift, get on the email list, and start to hear from me on a regular basis, you're gonna get to actually experience all of that.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I actually go out and do that on purpose sometimes. I'll sign up for people that I really admire, like I've signed up for yours, right?
Thank you.
And I just want to see how they're using the tools, how often they're sending out, what they're talking about, what's the tone. And if I like it, then I copy it, right? You learn from the people who are doing it well. And so there's an opportunity right there. Is just sign up for the ones you like and see what they're doing with it. Well, that is awesome, folks. So it will be definitely a link to all of this, to the website, to the blog, to the free gift.
Did we tell you the URL? Did I forget to?
We didn't say the URL. Go ahead and say it.
It's KathyrnCalhounCoaching.com/gift. And my name is Kathryn. So KathyrnCalhounCoaching.com/gift. Sorry about that.
With the Y and then /gift. And again, there'll be a link to that. And I always make my show notes really easy. Like if this is episode 85, it'd be nonprofitally.com/85. And they'll go right to it. Folks, that may not be the show note URL, so make sure you listen to the intro and the outro, but it's somewhere going to fall in there. So,
awesome.
Hey, Kathyrn, that was awesome. So great to talk with you, and I really appreciate all the info that you gave today.
It's my absolute pleasure. Thanks for having me.